Hey, Steven, I'm listening to some butt rock from the 90s. It's so good. I'm here without you, baby. Oh, am I on my lonely mind? Yeah. Butt rock for the win. Radio 104.5, Butt Rock FM.
Welcome back, Steven.
Feels good to be back on the pod.
Next week you won't be here.
And I'll be gone again.
It's that time of year, everybody.
Yeah.
Steven has a family vacation coming up. Do you want to tell anybody the exact address at where you'll be in case they want to visit?
Yeah, so on this specific date, I'm just going down the shore for the week with family. Should be a nice, relaxing vacation, unlike Disney World where I was on my feet all week. So
look, Steven has a small family of 3. times 10.
Yeah. Well, the house we're staying at has us, my sister, my brother-in-law, and then my parents, and then just a couple houses down are my other siblings, and we're all on the same street for the most part. So
now, would you say that they're 3 doors down?
Ooh, good band.
Hold me now. Wait, that's Creed. My kryptonite. If you go crazy, then will you still call me Superman? If I'm alive and well, will you be there holding my hand? If I would, that might get demonetized because that might have been the most perfect rendition.
What was the one from American Pie too? If I can be like that. Remember that one?
There are some good 3 Doors Down tracks.
Yeah.
I worked with them pretty closely way back in the day. Film days. I was still shooting film when I shot them in Hershey, PA.
The butt rock bands is what I like to call them.
I don't know why. What's butt rock mean, Steven?
It's that cheesy radio rock, you know?
Yeah, that sells like Nickelback.
Exactly.
Creed. That's all butt rock.
Nickelback's definitely in that category. 3 Days Grace, like those bands.
Theory of a Dead Man.
Yeah, definitely Theory of a Dead Man. That southern rock, you know.
Except they're from Canada.
I know, but they have that sound.
They do. They've been around a lot. Well, do you realize that Chad Kroeger signed Theory of a Dead Man to his label?
Makes sense.
And that's why. And they also were on that Hero song. In they say a hero that's gonna take you away.
I'm just gonna fill in some words so we don't get demonetized. You're too good,
Josie
man.
Scott
Please,
was
stop.
Josie Scott was also on that track too. Click, click, boom. Anyway, welcome to the episode number 107, everybody. We've got some stuff to talk about. Steven is in finish mode. There's so much stuff that Steven's working on before he goes on vacation. There's a lot to get done, so he took some time here, obviously, to come onto the podcast. Next week, I'm still deciding what I'll do, because it's going to be a busy week for me as well. But I probably will do a Q&A, and I might reach out to Vanessa Joy because everybody loves having some joy in their life. And she's fun on podcasts because I can like poke her buttons.
Physically?
No, push her buttons. I'm not going to poke her, Steven. That's a married woman you're talking
still poke
about.
on Facebook?
A super poke?
Just a regular poke.
I don't know. I don't use Facebook personally. I barely use it for business.
Yeah, same.
I haven't, like, because, you know, when you get into the idea that every time you post something or like something or do something, it's feeding into some metric for Facebook that then leads to somewhere else, I don't want to give it any information at this point. So I don't need to comment on somebody's post. I don't need to like their post. I don't need to heart emoji their post. I don't need to do anything to their post. In fact, maybe once a month do I actually go onto actual Facebook and scroll through and see like, oh, I missed this whole person's life, but I don't really care.
I will say Facebook groups are pretty solid. I mainly use Facebook for the groups, whether it's camera groups, lawn care groups, whatever it may be. I think the groups are pretty, the local town groups I'm in.
Are you in the butt rock groups?
No butt rock groups here, no.
I'm going to Google butt rock. What is butt rock? What exactly is butt rock in terms of music? The term comes from a nationwide advertising campaign on hard rock radio stations in the 90s that used the tagline, rock, nothing but rock. Listeners quickly changed that to nothing but, B-U-T-T, rock. Though it refers to anything played on hard rock stations, it's commonly is used to refer to hair bands or used by people to distinguish the bad butt rock from the hard rock that they like.
Yep, that's exactly how I see butt rock.
And then someone says that this is bullshit. And then someone's like, think of Puddle of Mud, Theory of a Dead Man,
Boom.
Seether, Breaking Benjamin, and bands like that. Basically, oh my God, there was a Breaking Benjamin meme back in the day.
Not too edgy to be rock, but not catchy enough to be pop music.
Except for now, it's like really popular.
Somebody said, I also call them genera rock.
That's true. It's generic radio music. It's radio rock.
Exactly.
It's built for the radio. You know, it's not Nirvana.
It's the cheesy radio stuff. That's what I'm talking about.
Too bad Nickelback was the top-selling artist of the 2000s.
Don't get me wrong. I love me some Nickelback and Creed, especially Creed.
Well, Creed's making the comeback.
But like the Theory of a Dead Man stuff, I don't know. I could never get into it.
Disturbed.
Yeah.
Puddle of Mud doesn't even, as some people used to call him, Puddle of Crud, aren't even playing.
Well, that front man went all over the place, right? He
I don't know if he's still alive.
He's all messed up. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if he's still around or not. So anyway, on this week's episode, I do want to let you know, I did say this for next week, that if I do a Q&A, which I'm most likely going to do, I'm only going to take questions from the text line. So if you're not on the text line, go away. I'm not going to answer your question. But if you are on the text line, I may not answer your question either, but you can text into 313-710-9729. That is our text line. I do not bother you very often over there, but it is a good place for you to send comments, send feedback, and to interact with us on occasion, because Steven reads them, I read them. But please keep your questions to keep them concise and good. I know there's no way of you saying knowing what I think is a shit question, but just if you read the question and it's, hi, what camera should I buy? That's a shit question. It's not getting answered. I just want good stuff. And you know, some gear questions are worthy and most gear questions aren't. And if you
just be specific. Is all I ask.
Yes. It's like, hey, I've got $2,000 to spend. What should I buy? I don't know. What do you have? What do you already have? What do you shoot? Yeah. What do you do? So, you know, think about it. Like if you're going to email someone with questions and you want to reply, then actually give them some information. Mm-hmm. Steven, do not email a question in. Do not text a question in. You cannot do that. Excuse me, Jared, I'd like to ask you a question. No questions allowed. So that's what's going to happen. And before we get into the biggest story that we're talking about this week, there's only 3 spots left for the boot camp on July 27th. The first boot camp sold out in 3 days. This boot camp only has 3 of 15 spots left, which means it's almost sold out. If you'd like to sign up and lock in your spot here in Philadelphia on July 27th, which is a Saturday, the link is bit.ly/July27FRO. That's JULY27 And if they're available,
and you're promoting that in Fix this week too, right?
Yeah, I am promoting it in Fix.
So that means it will probably be sold out in the next day or two. So jump on that quick if you really are thinking about going.
Yeah, this might be out after, but we'll see.
Yeah.
And I don't plan on doing any more in Philadelphia anytime soon. It's going to get busy. Like the end of the year, we're already there. We're not at the end of the year, but it gears up. Like after 2 months are over, we're in the last quarter, and it starts to get really busy with a lot of stuff. Breaking news, Steven. Breaking in the best Tony Northrup voice.
Where's your
breaking
glasses?
News. They're on. I didn't take them off.
I know.
Breaking news. I'm Tony Northrup. I am a silver fox. That's right.
He's a good-looking man.
He is a sexy-looking guy. He really is. He's like, woo! He drives like a Porsche. That guy is the man. Anyway, we haven't seen Tony in a long time.
We haven't. Oh, well, we saw him on the A93 trip in New York for a very limited amount of time because we were, running around like crazy trying to use the camera.
Oh, yeah. We did see them at lunch there for a minute or two.
Oh, yeah.
I remember seeing them for lunch for a very short period of time. Anyway, the breaking news is the winner for the Super Huge or Mega Camera giveaway for 2023/2024 has been selected. And
I did enter, by the way.
You did?
Maybe.
There's a disclaimer that says...
No, there's not. I checked.
Can't win. You did? No, there's a disclaimer that says Dan
I checked.
and Steven can't win. Anybody related to Dan and Steven
can't win. Wouldn't that be funny if you picked the random winner and it was Dan? Dan popped up.
I'd be like, you're fired. Anyway, what I did this year, I didn't fly someone in. There's so much going on. There's not enough time to get that stuff done.
Yeah.
I hit the randomizer, it selected the winner. I reached out to the winner and let them know that they weren't the winner. I let them know that they were one of the finalists and I need to talk to them. And so that is just what I'll do. I got them on Zoom, and here's our conversation, and you will see what they got.
Hey,
Nate Dogg.
how's it going?
Anybody ever call you Nate Dogg?
You know, a lot of people call me Nate Dogg.
I figured that much. I didn't know what else to. I mean, what else is there to call you?
Yeah, Nate the Great, maybe. I don't know. I've heard a few.
Who calls you that?
Well, you know, I think I wish people called me that now.
So where are you at in the world?
So near Minneapolis, it's just a suburb in Minnesota. So
It's not cold this time of year. Is it actually nice?
no, this is the time of year it's beautiful. Everyone comes here in the summer. A lot of people fly to Florida during the winter, but I love the cold, so it doesn't bother me.
Well, that certainly is a cold place. Yeah, so I told you that we had the Super Huge or Mega Camera giveaway. We have 3 finalists, and you're one of the finalists. So how's that
awesome.
sound?
That is awesome. Yeah. I remember entering a long time ago. I totally forgot about it. So when I got that email from you, I thought it was maybe another one of your newsletters. And then I'm like, wait a minute, you said something about the 10,000 lakes or whatever here. So
I made it abundantly clear in the email. I left my phone number. I told you that this is me. I made it personal so that you know it wasn't the one that said, you won is what I want to tell you. Right, right. That's what I didn't want it to have in that email. Yeah. So I mean, I saw that you entered in 2022 also in the past.
Yeah.
You own the preset. You own the video guide, right?
Yep. Yeah. No, I love your videos. I watch them all the time. You're educational and you always make me laugh too. So
well, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. It's a good thing when you have that, because I always have to lie to people every year when I make these videos to get them onto a Zoom call to tell them that they won the grand prize.
Dude, are you kidding me? This is awesome. Wow, that is so awesome.
I have to lie to everybody every year, you know, and this year that means you win. Do you have any idea what you win since you entered so long ago?
I mean, I believe it's the $3,500, but if you bought some of these presets, there's an extra $1,500. So is it $5,000 total?
It's $4,999.99 of my own money to spend on.
Awesome.
I get to spend it on anything that you want at allenscamera.com.
That is so cool. I'm pumped. I do this kind of stuff for a living for my job, but I don't have any of the camera gear myself. So I've always been kind of buying a few small things for in the future to have like some lighting and stuff. But man, I'm pumped.
What system do you have?
Canon R5C. So it's kind of what I would be probably wanting to get for myself too.
Are you looking to do video or you do mostly stills?
Yeah, video, but I also love photography too. So a good hybrid camera is kind of what I be looking for. And I know you've recommended for the lens that f2 28-70. I think that's probably what I would want to. I was looking on Alan's camera site when you had initially emailed me thinking like, oh, what would I get? So it's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah, what's on the list? What are the wishes?
Those 2 things would probably be my top of the list. So, you know, just kind of a nice camera that I can do video and photography with. So yeah, you know, use the R5C here at work. So I would love to have that because I kind of want to start a side gig filming. Kind of had an idea of filming some people kind of in their older years before have passed away, for family members to kind of see for the future. Because I know some of my grandparents have passed away and just kind of wish I could have asked them some things, you know. So I thought maybe that'd be kind of something fun to start on the side.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, we'll have to figure it out because I think those 2 things would put you over the hump of the $49.99.
And I can pay the difference or whatever if it brings it. I know it's going to be a little bit over, but yeah.
All right.
I'm thrilled, man. This is awesome. I'm always impressed with your videos. They always look so great, like on YouTube, and just the coloring and the crispness. So I've kind of used your videos as a baseline for even stuff I do here at work, just to try and get them to look even close to what yours do. So
that's awesome.
I learned a lot from you
that.
for the last few years. So
that's great. I appreciate that a lot. Well, we'll be in touch, and I'll help you figure this out.
Okay, this is awesome. Thank you so much. I love that you do this and give back and have fun doing it. It's you're really a great guy to watch. I frankly watch most of all of your videos, so it's always fun to see the new stuff coming out. So
thank you for entering and for watching for so many years. I am gonna stop recording now. Hold on. So big congratulations to the winner right there. Thank you everybody who entered.
Yes.
I don't know if I'll run another one. I mean, I seem to run them every year. And just remember, this is money out of my pocket. This is not a corporate sponsored thing. This is money that is Jared money. Like, Jared can't go have dinner tonight because no, Jared can go have dinner tonight.
One less Porsche.
Yeah, that's one less Porsche payment a month. I'm sorry, that's $5,000.
What did we tell the winner last year to get them here? Like, didn't you just say spend a day in the life with Jared or something?
Yeah, I flew him in, and
and he clearly knew. It's like, oh, you're just randomly going to ask me, this person that you don't know, to come and hang out with you for a day?
Take him to Alan's camera. I know, it's kind of cool. Kind of cool idea to fly someone in.
Yeah, but it's so obvious that he's the winner.
All right, Steven, it's not easy after doing this for like 8 or 9 years of doing this.
I'm just saying, like, the whole, like, flying him in was a little overkill.
Yeah, well, remember when Gloria won?
Yes.
And we all sang Gloria?
Yeah.
Gloria!
Was she the first ever pro winner?
I don't know. All I remember is Todd breaking the set. Because that's what Todd was, you know, Todd.
Oh, yeah, we
Todd
did, like, a retro game show set, right?
Yeah, actually, that was the retro game show set with the spinning wheel. And then Todd broke our background stand because we had tinsel hanging to look like a gold background curtain.
Cheesy,
and he tried to hang from it. Like, what are you, 12?
Toppling down.
Are you 12?
It's because once Todd gets set into, like, a character, he just overdoes it. It's
12.
overkill.
Like 12. He's like a 12-year-old kid. At least that's how he was.
He would always be knocking over
that.
light stands and tripods and not looking where he's going.
Yeah, because you're right. When he gets into acting mode, he's
oblivious to the world.
Yeah, he just like goes off and he's like a wrecking ball. So anyway, congratulations to the winner. Awesome. We'll get the gear out. Thank you to Alan's Camera for being the place that I purchase everything, and they will be sending the stuff to him. I will be bringing in, well, I don't need to bring cash this time. I can just write a check to Brandon and he can cash it.
Oh, yeah,
and then
he can literally $5,000 cash.
Yeah. Remember what happened last year when I tried to get $5,000 cash?
You couldn't take it all out,
bank,
right? Yeah.
And they're like, I'm sorry, we don't have that amount of cash here. I'm like,
you're a bank.
It's $5,000.
It's your sole purpose to carry money, and it's only $5,000. It's not even a lot of money.
It's $5,000.
Yeah.
You don't have 5,000 in hundreds right now.
Oh my
you
God.
can't figure that. Like, you don't have money. You literally don't have. I have to order that cash in and tell you about it. Like, that's pretty bad, guys.
I mean, I could see if you show up and you're like, hey, I need to take 50 grand out cash. That's a different story. But $5,000, come on.
Yeah, Steven, that was last night. I had to pay for dinner. $50,000 dinner. Anyway, let's get on to the big news of the week. Is the Nikon Z63 has officially been announced. It's out. Our video did really well.
Yeah,
and I think that's
as
because
expected. It's a brand new camera.
But I think they teased it. You know, knowing the launch date, I think gives people some reason to tune in.
That was the first time we could ever say we played with the camera and when it will be coming out and everything. It was kind of weird because we still didn't know what we could say, what we couldn't say. Initially, they said we couldn't say anything, but we used it. And then we saw Petapixel posted a blurred out image, and we're like, wait, can we post a blurred out image?
Yeah, I just posted the blurred out image, and then Manny posted a blurred out image without asking, because what's the point?
Yeah.
Like, if they did
it's
it,
just,
then they got approval.
You can't do anything but say you shot with it, and then we see these blurred out images, and we're like, wait, what? So we can do that?
You didn't ask.
Yeah,
I love that. You can't do anything, but then all of a sudden you're like, well, why are they doing? Oh, because they got permission.
Well,
I'm like, but you
know what we don't know.
Yeah. So, but that's behind the scenes stuff. The camera was officially announced. We took it out into the real world. We used it. Steven, you want to go off on some specs here, or what did you have prepared?
Well, first of all, the biggest news is that the space is now officially removed from the Z Space 6 part. Which
that is major news.
Major breaking news. I just want to bring that up first. But I do think the odd part is, if you recall during the briefing, they're like, it's a Z6 Space 3, But then if it's written out with a Z8 and Z9, then the space is added back. So it's all uniform. And it's like, wait, so sometimes it's a space, sometimes it's not. And then the press release came out and it just says Z63, no spaces at all. Z8, Z9, no spaces at all. I don't understand what's going on, but very important news. Just want to break that first. I was able to shoot B-roll with it all day. You were able to shoot stills all day. And I think we had some pretty gnarly shoots set up. I think it was a nice mix of action, low light, sports, portraits, kids, a little bit of everything. And we had limited time as usual, but I think we did some pretty good stuff with it.
So, I wanted to take it to the Phillies game. I wanted to take it somewhere into a real place to shoot, and I get denied.
Well, we always get denied. Keep that in mind.
They always worry that you'll be seen
for
or
obvious
something
reasons.
will happen.
I mean, you were just on TV during a Phillies broadcast, what, a week or two ago? So I get it.
I mean, they featured me just because of my old camera. Like, oh, hey, could you?
I told you, I'm like, thank God you didn't have the Z63 or some brand new camera in your hand.
Well, I should have had the Insta360 Go 3S on my head, but you needed it for B-roll. And if that happened, I would have had that. I had the older one on, but no one would
really
know.
Anyone would have noticed, yeah.
And no one cares. No one's going to be like, holy shit, breaking news. This is a Go 3S is coming.
Whoa.
No one cares about that. But I wanted to shoot the Phillies, and they're like, Nikon's like, no.
Absolutely not.
They say absolutely not. And I'm like, no one's going to know that this isn't no one's going to know that this is the Z63, except for the fact that everybody knows I've been showing up to the baseball game with only a 4x5 this year, and they know that if I don't shoot 4x5, well, I'm probably testing something out.
And except for the fact that you never, ever shoot Nikon at a baseball game, so clearly it's probably going to be new gear.
But there's so few people at the game that shoot Nikon that no one cares.
Yeah.
But we got approved to shoot soccer. But then it was going to rain all day. And so I was like, hey, Nikon, it's going to rain. Why don't I put it in a think tank hydrophobia? And then that way no one will see the lens. Yeah. No one will see the body. And they're like, oh.
That might actually work.
Well, okay. And so I bought them a ticket for the game. I went to the game. So I got there early.
That's the issue, though, is they need to be by our side. They basically send a babysitter, and it's unfortunate because, obviously you have an MLB pass and you can be down on the field during warm-ups.
Yeah.
You cannot get them a pass. So in the beginning, they were like, we still can't do it because I need to be next to you, with you at all times, blah, blah, blah. And then you kind of were like, well, I could put in the hydrophobia and then just give you a ticket and you can still kind of watch out over me from the stands and we can kind of make that work. And they thankfully agreed.
He did. And it ended up being like pouring rain for 3 innings.
Yeah.
And so I was in a full raincoat. The camera was in a full raincoat.
For once we wanted it to rain during a game.
Well, yeah, why not? I mean, it's just, it adds to better picture. So I only shot 3 innings and then I left. I got exactly what I needed and then I left. And
it's perfect for a Z63 because there were those issues with even the Z8 and Z9 that, on occasion, if it was thick clumps of snow or heavy rain or whatever it may be, it would kind of, or bubbles, it would focus on that versus the actual subject in the picture. And we kind of showed that it still did a really good job, even in the pouring rain for the most part.
Yeah. So anyway, we shot it there, shot it at a Muay Thai gym, and photographed kids, as I like to tend to do because it's just a good thing to shoot. You want to hit us with some more top level stuff?
Yeah, I mean, in general, the body itself is a lot thicker and heavier, but that's welcomed, in my opinion. I'd rather have a nice, bulky body. Like, I was looking at the Z8 and Z9.
Nice, bulky body.
I was looking at the Z8, Z9 yesterday, and I picked up the Z8, and I'm like, man, this does really feel like a nice camera. I still think the Z9 is a tank. It feels good, but it's just so heavy. I think the Z8 is a nice compromise, and the Z6 is kind of like a mini Z8, especially with its smoother EVF. It's got the Z logo on the front, kind of mimics that Z8 look, and it has the nameplate on the top of the camera, which, by the way, that leaked picture that we saw months ago with the tape on top of it, that was a real Z63. That was floating around. Yeah, I mean, it matched our exact Z63 body and everything, so that was definitely legit. Someone from the inside had to be working Nikon Europe, Nikon Corporate, something like that. Who knows?
Yeah. Do you know what's crazy? So that the Phillies game I shot was rain. You would have died yesterday at the Phillies game. It was a 1 o'clock game.
Week, man, it's a scorcher. Yeah.
It was 92 degrees yesterday. No clouds in the sky. I'm sitting there out, no shade. I'm sitting
And most of the
inside
stadium is no shade at that point, right?
Well, not at 1 o'clock, the sun is straight
up. Yeah.
So unless you're under the overhangs or something,
there's only a few rows like that.
You're getting beat off really hard by the sun, and that's
beat off.
Well, yeah, you get beat off by the sun, and what comes out is sweat. I was sitting there in my shirt, and I think it turned like from purple to dark purple. And when I went downstairs into the press room, I'm like, my entire shirt was just soaked through. I lost pounds. I got home and I got on the scale. I was 179.
I would have been absolutely drenched. I remember the Canon press trip we did for the R7, R10 that you remember
Florida.
They brought us out to it was Florida.
Everglades.
In the summer, and we were at a skate park and a little volleyball area. And I was
the way that was beach volleyball, Steven.
volleyball,
That was
yes.
lovely. Oh, remember those thongs? Ooh,
hello.
That guy wore a really sweet thong.
that guy, yeah. What?
God.
But that was very similar. It was like 95 degrees, super humid, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, just beating sun. It was rough. They looked like I jumped out of a pool.
Yeah. All right. Back specs.
Well, just more about the body. It now has the vari-angle screen, which you dislike. I also wish it had the Z8, Z9 4-axis screen. I think that's a nice compromise. I do like the vari-angle for video work, but at the same time, I see your point about it not being flush with the body and still being an issue with still photography, just like your R3
even for video,
and
I
the
don't
Canon
like
cameras.
it. I don't like it for video either.
I like it for video. Like I was doing beauty shots, for example, of the Z63, and I'm going constantly behind the camera, in front of the camera, trying to adjust lighting as I'm taking different shots of the camera, and I'm always flipping that screen out and just checking my angles and checking my shot, checking the lights, and it's just really nice to have that. Now,
I just don't like it for lines.
Gunning, I don't really like it, like you're saying, for lines.
Yeah. Don't like it at all.
But we do have that new high-res EVF. It's the 5.76 million dot blackout-free one. Super freaking bright, man. 4,000 nits. But I cranked that thing up, and it was like burning my eyes. even during the brightest days, like the Phillies game would have been a good day yesterday to test that out, to really crank it up and to see if it's almost too much.
I didn't even know it. I shoot pictures, man.
Well, that's what I'm saying. In reality, you're going to have it set to auto anyway for the most part, and it's going to use not even half that brightness. It's really only when you're going to manual mode and you crank it all the way up if you're, on a beach or something like that.
It's just like another marketing thing that's meaningless. People talk, but you see comments, people are like, "Oh, the Viva has a 4,000. That's so amazing." It's like you won't ever need it.
Yeah, full HDMI port now too, which is great for us when we record the EVF. And biggest thing though is the new 24.5 megapixel partially stacked sensor, which me and you didn't even know that was a thing before we were briefed.
Nope.
It is 3.5 times faster readout than they say versus the Z6 II, and that had a readout speed of roughly 39 milliseconds. So if you do the math, 39 divided by 3.5, you're looking at 11 or so.
11?
That's faster than an R6 II, an R8, an R5. They're all around 14 or 15 milliseconds, but for the most part, very usable. Obviously, like super fast action, like tennis rackets or bats still have an issue around that speed. Even with the Z6 III, we noticed that it's still a little bit of an issue, but for the most part, you can shoot electronic shutter fully in almost any scenario. Like we did have some warping, right, of the Harper bat.
Yeah, it depends on where you catch it. And
exactly.
Well, it's funny. You probably get it on a Harper swing more than someone else's because he swings with more power.
Sure.
Like there is that.
Depends how fast, yeah.
Yeah, it is much faster. And that brings up the frames per second. You're at roughly 14 frames per second with the mechanical shutter, and you're at 20 frames per second with the electronic, which is the same as what you had before. It's just that it's more usable with the electronic shutter now
than
it ever was before. No?
No.
What did we have before with the Z6 II?
It was not 20. I know that. I don't think electronic topped out that.
Oh, was it 14?
14, it was mechanical, but it was always a caveat, like 12-bit RAW or something like that. And speaking of that, this will shoot 14-bit lossless compressed RAW across the board, no matter what frame rate you're in, 20, 14, whatever. The high extended mode does not, lose anything, which is great because with the Canons, you go to high plus in the R5, R6 II, R8, they drop down to 12-bit RAW when you're shooting electronic shutter in the highest frame rate. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, and you can do pre-shooting except for the fact it's only in JPEGs.
And speaking of the sensor size too, like will there be a Z7 III. Like I saw a lot of people saying, I wish this was north of 30 megapixels, blah blah blah. 24 is not enough, all this stuff. It's still a Z6 body, which has always been a lower resolution body, that 24 megapixel sweet spot. The Z7 III was always the high resolution body, but the question is, will there ever be a Z7 III? Because the Z8 essentially is the Z7 III, in my opinion.
The answer is no. You can't have a Z7 III. It makes absolutely no sense to have a Z7 III unless they did a partially stacked sensor. But it's like, it's just way too much in the line.
Yeah, because right now you have $2,500 for the Z6 III and then $4,000 for the Z8. There's not much in between.
It's only $4,000. There's no way you're doing a Z7
unless you do 3,300 or something. But at that point, it's like just buy a Z8.
I'm also tired of the 24. I get these messages. I'm thinking of upgrading from my D750, and I'm just not sure 24 megapixels is enough. I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like what do you mean 24 isn't enough? Even if you crop 50%, you still have plenty of megapixels for any size print that you want to make. I just don't understand this idea that you need more. And I shoot with an R3. It's 24 megapixels.
I just think people really are cropping to the extreme on these 47, 45, 50 megapixel sensors.
Steven, they crop to the extreme on 4 megapixel sensors back in the day.
And that's why they want more and more and more.
People keep telling us, I was standing there in the Phillies game the other day, and the one photographer, who shall remain nameless, was showing me his screen. He's like, check this out. And it was a play at home plate.
Zoomed all the way in.
And he cropped into the player sliding there from like a 24 millimeter. But that's for posting on the internet. It's just insane, this idea of cropping. And I will die on that sword. For me personally, it's personal choice. I'm not going to go into it again right now. But people always question it. And I'm like, look, personal choice. You choose to do what you want to do. I think that better photographers don't need to crop.
Oh, yeah, but you still find times when you're like, I wish I had a different composition for this, but I refuse to crop.
Yeah,
principle.
Yeah. You gotta stand on something, or you stand on nothing, Steven. Stand for something, or you stand for nothing.
Okay.
You hear that?
We're talking about cropping.
Oh, cropping. That's right. Yeah, it's very important to not crop. So yeah, the idea that 24 isn't enough. This is a loaded camera. I mean, what they did with it is very nice. It took them a while.
Yeah. I think it's finally there. I think the Z lineup is pretty solid right now between the Z63, Z8, and Z9, and I'm sure we will get a Z9 II in the next year and a half. It's probably in the near future.
We'll see. I don't know that Nikon can squeeze that out.
I'm just saying we're approaching 3 years at this point.
Yeah, you'll get an S version. You'll get a mid-level refresh.
I wonder if they'll bring back the S versions like they used to do with the flagships back in the day, every 2 years. Well, it's already been past that point.
Update your firmware. We'll just update your firmware.
Well, speaking of firmware, they do have an XP 7 processor now, so it has caught up to Z8, Z9 performance. Near Z8, Z9 performance, they would tell us. 20% faster than the Z6 II. I think it's more than 20% faster. It just seemed
autofocus
way better. Yeah. I looked back pulling clips from the Z6 II EVF when you first tested that out, and it's night and day. It is night and day. This autofocus really is usable. I had no problems, for the most part, shooting video with it, and I was on full auto AF face detection, the all-encompassing mode, and I would just switch faces with the joystick. And then, times I would shoot with a manual focus point and stuff, but it did pretty good. The fast primes were a little rough to shoot with, or if it was the high frame rates like 120p or 240p, it struggled a little bit, but for the most part, video you can get away with it being a little behind. I thought it did a pretty solid job.
Yeah, I was much happier with the autofocus, and I said that it's much closer to a Z8 and Z9 than it is to a Z6 II.
Oh yeah,
and it's in a really good spot.
It is definitely a worthy upgrade if you are thinking of upgrading from a Z6 II. If you rely on fast frame rate and autofocus. If you don't, if you're a landscape shooter or whatever it may be, shooting static subjects, I wouldn't worry about it because we've always loved the Nikon RAW files. It's pretty much the same. We're going to have actually a RAW file review coming out this week sometime, along with an autofocus review. It has all those same fast frame rate modes, the C30, C60, C120. The C120 is cropped, 11 megapixels, just like the Z9. C30 and C60 are full frame, JPEG only. I don't understand why they can't do RAW. If you're doing 6K, 60p RAW video, 12-bit, why can't I get RAW photos? Even if they're 12-bit, I don't care. Give me C60 12-bit, give me C30 12-bit. Just give me the option.
Yeah, and it's also the same in the Z8 and Z9. Right?
Exactly.
Those are still JPEG. It's like, why is this still JPEG? So there's
Especially
still
in the
limitations.
flagship. Yeah.
You know what term I absolutely despise? Someone was asking me why wasn't something in the Z63. And I'm like, well, because it's a Z63, right? If
you can't expect everything the Z8, Z9
everything,
has. Yeah.
Right. But he's like, oh, that's the cripple hammer. And I'm like, I hate that term so much. I really despise that term, cripple hammer. It's no one is intentionally like sitting there going, well, we need to hinder this thing and we need to hit it with a cripple hammer to make sure that people buy something else. Like, it's just a stupid fucking term. You can't have everything in every single camera because then you would just have one camera.
Yep.
You just can't. So I just hate that term. I just wanted to say that.
The big thing, too, that we didn't get to test out at all was their new Nikon Imaging Cloud that they say you can basically shoot and upload RAW and JPEGs directly to Dropbox, Google Photos, any of those cloud-based services while you're shooting. It sounds interesting. I don't know how reliable it's going to be, but you could upload RAW files directly. Obviously, you need a Wi-Fi connection and all of that. Also, the whole imaging recipes that you're going to have now via NX Studio. You can basically build your own Nikon preset and then not shop them around, but you could download other users' presets as well and then load them on your Nikon camera. It's kind of like what Lumix is doing with their Lumix Labs. Panasonic did this with the S9 with their LUTs, how you can put it up online for other people to download and check out other people's LUTs and presets and all of that. It sounds interesting. I just don't know if it's really going to take off. I question who really uses NX Studio.
No one's going in there and dialing in these settings. They really aren't.
I don't know. I mean, the Nikon fans, it's a big community, so maybe they will, maybe they won't. Who knows? I've never really used NX Studio. I don't really like any of the proprietary studio desktop apps from any of the brands personally. They're always a pain to use.
I agree. And it's funny when they're like, oh, you could open these RAW files and NX will give you the beta. I'm like, yeah, no thanks.
Yeah,
I don't want to use your software. And luckily, Lightroom already was updated with the Z63 RAW file converter, so we could open those files right away, which is much more beneficial when you're doing a preview.
Oh, yeah.
That's why most people shouldn't call it reviews when you can't even open a RAW file. That's skirting the ethics, in my opinion.
Yeah, we usually don't ever have RAW file support before the launch. Like the ZF, I know we didn't. Sony, sometimes we do. They tend to work with Adobe, it seems, before us, and sometimes there's like a beta launch or something like that. And we
I
can
used
get,
to, Steven.
Yeah, or people at Adobe, and we can get.
I had a person on the inside, and I would just be like, "Hey, do you potentially have a converter for this?" And I could get a beta converter, which allowed me to turn the RAW file that couldn't be opened yet into a DNG, which then I could open up. And there was always the caveat that this isn't fully engineered and it might not be perfect. It's always good enough for what we were doing.
Yeah.
And it just, you know me, RAW files are just better than JPEGs. They just are.
Yeah.
Still, today. Just going back to them is just so much better.
And then just back to the camera, video feature-wise, it really has a ton. It's got the NRAW, ProRes RAW, regular ProRes, HQ, H.265, H.264, 4K 120, but with a crop, a DX crop, which... whatever, that's fine. 1080 at 240, that's only 5% crop. It's 95% of the frame. I thought that looked pretty good. 4K 60, full frame, they're all oversampled. And you get N-Log internal now. You have all the video features that the Z8 has, waveforms, high-res zoom, the 1/6 increment ISO adjustments. It has the 24-bit audio like the Z8, has a line and input now, which is really nice if you're recording directly from a soundboard. 5-axis VR IBIS with that focus point VR that I think the Z8 has. Or no, maybe the ZF has that. I forget. But yeah, they really did a lot with video. And I love that, speaking of cripple hammer, they don't really cripple this at all when it comes to video features, I think.
Which is nice. It shines well against some of its competitors.
The question is, will this get a ton of firmware updates like the Z8 and Z9? Will it keep going and adding more new features in the next year or two? Or is this going to be kind of a one and done, not really needing to get more and more firmware updates? Who knows?
Yeah, well, you know what we always say about firmware.
Well, now this has the hardware. That's the thing. This now has the X-Speed 7 processor with that brand new partially stacked sensor.
You'll get minor firmware updates.
Bug fixes, stuff like that. But I'm talking more about new features, like big features like that 2.0 update with the Z9, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Some cons, though, about this camera. No digital hot shoe in 2024. I think that's a really big deal. I don't understand.
Obviously for video.
Well, and your Z8 and your flagship don't have it. The lowest end Sony and Canons have digital hot shoe, cable-free audio, stuff like that. There's still no video redundancy. You can't record to 2 cards, but you can do photos. I don't get why that's not a thing, especially in a Z9 when it shoots to 2 CF Express B cards that are crazy fast. And the buffer on this one is essentially unlimited, so why can't you just write to 2 cards at once? Now, I get it. You're mixing cards for this one with a CF Express B and an SD, but it still should be pretty fast enough to keep up with most of the video applications in this camera. There's no sensor shield. I love the sensor shield of the Z8 and Z9. This still seems to be pretty much immediate on and off, which is really great. I think Nikon is the fastest on and off cameras. Canon is still incredibly slow. Sony's hit or miss.
I think Canon's fine. I think that
I'm saying if you use a mechanical shutter to block the sensor and to open up as you're turning the camera on.
Yeah, I thought you were just off and on. I will say I went and shot with the A7 IV the other day, and holy forever,
it's like booting up a computer.
On.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing? Why are we taking 2 seconds?
I've noticed for some weird reason with Sony cameras specifically, if it's been sitting for a while on our shelf, on our gear shelf, and I turn it on months or years later, it really is like booting up an old computer. It takes like 10 seconds to fully turn on. It's very odd. And then once it's turned on and you quickly turn it off and on, it's quick again. But that first initial boot takes a minute. And it's just very weird. Just Sony
It's just
cameras.
weird.
Yeah.
Just weird. Just weird.
Also, normal VR is always on by default. I think sports VR is really powerful in the Nikon Z63 and all the Nikon cameras. I think that should be on by default. Just a lot of little things, you know, just like every camera. There's some slight issues, and I don't really understand why they don't have these things fixed or put into this camera in 2024.
Yeah. Now, it falls into a really interesting place in the competitive landscape between Canon, Sony, Nikon.
Oh, yeah.
You've got, you know, I think it competes really well with an R6 Mark II. In terms of video features, the video features are better than Canon's R6 Mark II, correct?
Yeah, I mean, they both do 4K, 60 oversampled, full frame, but you got 4K 120 in this camera, even though it's a crop, but I don't think that the R6 Mark II offers that at all, and I think the R6 Mark II only does 180 at 1080 instead of 240. And obviously, all the ProRes features in this camera are stellar. That's amazing that they put that stuff into a $2,500 body. So
now, when it comes to stills, they do compete very well together.
Yeah,
you know, except you get 30 frames a second with the Canon.
40.
Oh, 40. Really?
You get 40, but it's 12-bit RAW.
No, it doesn't matter. Like,
and
it really
it's a
doesn't
slower
matter.
readout, so you know.
Slightly. I can't believe you get 40 frames a second on that and 30 with a R3. It's just insane that you have one that does 30 and it's more expensive, and you have this that can do it and still be competent.
Yeah.
It's insane.
And they're both 24 megapixels too.
But you're doing that in RAW, which is important to me. I think that the Nikon blows the A7 IV out of the water.
Yeah,
almost entirely. I think the A7 IV is just one of those really bad. Even though they've sold 1 billion of them, it's a good camera. Like, don't get me wrong, it's a nice functioning camera. It's very nice. But it's not extraordinarily nice. And it's so slow that when I was shooting baseball the other day with that 50 to 300 Tamron, I'm getting 6 frames a second in compressed lossless RAW.
Yeah, in uncompressed and compressed lossless, you get 6, and you get 10 in the 12-bit compressed RAW. So it's a very slow camera, and that electronic shutter is essentially not usable because that readout from that electronic shutter is about on par with what the Z6 II was. So you're going to get a lot of rolling shutter, a lot of jelloing.
Yeah, and that's just, I don't know what they were thinking, Sony, with that, but I know that the A7, I don't know that because we haven't heard anything of an A7 V, but an A7 V, I guarantee you will have a new body shape that feels much better, a new sensor, faster reader. It might even have this partially stacked sensor. Like, it might use that tech because Sony makes those sensors.
I remember being pretty disappointed when we got briefed for the A7 IV and kind of being like, that's it, guys? Like, it's been almost 4 years and you're just doing this when the A7 III made such a big splash in the industry, especially for that $2,000 price point. You guys threw everything at it, and the A7 IV is kind of just like an evolutionary update. If that, it was still the same frame rate, a lot of the same features. Nothing really blew me away, and that's kind of how I feel like the rest of the world took it. The public took it. You know, it's kind of like a meh camera.
Well, that's my thing. The fact that it's max 10 frames a second electronic, 10 frames a second mechanical. It's like, what is the point of shooting that then in electronic? If you know, it makes no sense. Whereas Canon was doing 40 frames a second with its direct competitor. And now you got 20 frames a second and 14 frames a second with Nikon.
And they did the same thing that Nikon did with the A7 IV. They jumped the price up about $500. So that was kind of another issue, is that, you know, you're coming out with an A7 IV, which is lackluster, but it's also $500 more than what the A7 III came out at. Now, I get inflation and all of that. I also get why the Z63 is $500 more, because I think it packs a much bigger punch than a Z6 II had. I think the Z6 III, in my opinion, is more of a revolutionary update than an evolutionary update for Nikon. I think it's a big camera.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think it's one of those cameras that I would have no problem saying, oh, you're just starting in photography and your budget for a body is $2,500?
I do want to break that down too. I saw a lot of comments being like, starter camera for $2,500? Like, what are you, insane? I think you're more talking about like a starter camera in the professional world, in the full frame world. This is the entry level type camera. Yeah, there's a Z5, but I feel like this is the more appropriate, like, start here and move up camera.
But look, if someone is starting out and they have a budget, and they have a slight budget,
if you're serious about photography.
Well, I'm saying you want to get into wedding photography, and maybe you started with some basic profession. You know, yes, you're but I could see it being a first camera for someone. I mean, there's people that would come into the camera store all the time and tell me their budget, and they didn't want some basic thing, and they wanted something they could grow with. That's fine.
Sure, but it's hard. It's a hard sell to be like, hey, this is going to cost you $4,000 for your first camera, because you're going to have to buy a decent lens and all that.
For some people, I remember I made like a $15,000 sale or a $20,000 sale at Alan's Camera when I first got there. It was just a doctor or a lawyer who drove a Porsche who came in and was going and wanted to get into birding photography.
But we're talking about the 1% at that point. So
they bought
smaller market.
They bought whatever, like, I don't know if it was a D300 at the time, but it was a 200 to 400 and a body and all the accessories. And, you know, they dropped all that money right then and there. It's crazy because they wanted to shoot birds.
Yeah, I just think more of starter cameras being like an R8, like a Z5, like that $1,000, $1,200 kind of full frame price point. A7C original, probably. You know, those cameras that are like just the bare minimum when it's full frame. It's good enough. Gets it. Well, R8's a little more than that, I feel like.
A D3000 was
the R8 is basically an R6 II, just in a shittier body.
A D3000 was a starter camera.
Yes.
But what I was getting at with the Z63 here is that I would have no problem recommending this to anybody who shoots weddings, landscapes, portraits, sports, video. It's a well-rounded camera for in the price point of $2,500, and that's the story.
And we did do an unboxing yesterday with this camera. We got a full production unit in the mail yesterday morning and filmed it just a few hours later.
Yes, we did.
And you did discover that there was no charger in there. I don't think that's a huge deal, because Sony has been doing this for a few years now. I think their A7C2, their A7RC or CR, whatever it's called, they don't come with chargers anymore. The A6700, it's that whole like less plastic, less packaging material, find your own brick, and the charger at the end of the day is what, $50. So
it is, but my thing is, like, someone just if you already have a Z6 II, you already have a charger because it came with it. The only reason I mentioned it is because the Z6 III is the first one in that line.
Correct.
That doesn't have it.
The Z6, the Z6 II, the Z8, the Z9, they all come with chargers, came with chargers. The ZF didn't come with a charger, and the Z30 didn't come with a charger. So they were the first Nikons to start this trend, and it looks like moving forward, most of them will not come with a charger. I assume, though, most of their high-end cameras will still come with chargers, because just like Sony's only doing like that $2,500 and under price point, no charger. Anything above that, they're getting a charger.
The only place I see an issue is like you're a wedding photographer And yeah, you could go out and buy one, but you haven't bought one yet. So you need to charge a battery for the wedding day. That means you need to put one into the camera and charge it from the camera.
Yeah.
And you can't charge the other one. And you can't charge while you're shooting. So it's just like you would plug one in you during the day, you'd shoot, and then you refill that while you put another one in the camera. And like when I travel, I actually didn't take the R3 charger because it's so damn big to have the dual charger.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't take it and I just plug into the USB-C and I make sure that I charge up 2 full batteries that way. And you just have to coordinate it. You just have to know that this is something you have to do.
Yep.
And if you need extra juice, you plug it in and it's pretty fast charging. So it's not that big of a deal. But I wonder, does it add more wear and tear on the camera that you're using it to charge the battery?
Constantly charging via that USB-C port, yeah.
So
and
who knows?
And it's a lot more of a pain in the ass to charge from 0% than to keep topping it off at like 100% when you're charging via the USB-C cable.
Yeah.
Like I think yesterday we went to film on the R5 and I forgot that the battery was very low. It was at like 7%, and it took almost 30 minutes just to get it up above like 20% before we filmed. And I didn't feel like taking it off the tripod, replacing the batteries and everything because I had it in a certain spot.
Well, you could but you could use it while it's plugged in.
Oh, I did. I kept it plugged in while we were filming.
Yeah.
And eventually it got to 100%. But like I said, when you're starting very low and starting from 0% or around there, it takes way longer to charge back up. So that's the issue if you only have one battery.
So that's the Z63, guys. I think Nikon did a great job, and so big props to them for doing that. If you watched any of the content we put out, it's obviously skewed very positively, because when something is worthy of being positively skewed, it gets positively skewed. That's just the nature of it.
Yeah. And we're always going to do pros and cons on every preview, whether it's a Canon, Sony, Nikon. It's not just Nikon.
Pentax.
Pentax.
Don't forget Pentax. They have a new camera, which we're not talking about right now, but they have a new camera. All right, so to wrap up this week, don't forget to submit your questions to 313-710-9729 for the Q&A. I got to ask Vanessa if she's available. If she's not available, I'll probably just do it myself. Do you?
Do it,
Steven?
Yourself?
Do you? You're a funny one. Yeah, so I'll either do it myself or I'll have Vanessa do it for me.
What is that movement you're doing with your hand, Jared?
What, Steve? I was scratching my face.
Oh, okay.
All over it. So yeah, Steven will be away on vacation. I probably won't talk to him at all, most likely while he's away. But Steven we're getting a lot of content done while Steven is here, because that's just what we do, like filming two videos yesterday plus something else. It's just stuff that we got to get done. So Dan has stuff to edit, Steven gets his stuff done, and it's only a week anyway, and it's
always double the work to make up for vacation, basically.
That's what happens when you work for a small business.
Yep.
This isn't corporate where it's like 500 employees, and if you do leave, no one really misses you.
Exactly.
It's just like, oh, John's out again today. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and the hard part is it's not just you I'm worrying about. It's also Dan. I have to worry about, like, what am I going to give him to keep him busy while I'm gone? So that's always...
Feed Dan. Feed Dan.
Feed Dan. Yeah.
Feed Dan.
Hashtag feed Dan. That's always the rub.
Yeah.
And thankfully, we will have plenty for him to work on while I'm gone.
Yep. So that's it, guys. That's this episode. We appreciate you listening, as always, to episode 107. And anything you want to leave with, Steven?
That is it. I'm going to skip next week, and I will be back the following week.
You missed your opportunity to say you should always wear sunscreen. Baz Luhrmann. That was Baz Luhrmann,
Everyone's
right?
free to wear sunscreen, right? Isn't that what it's called?
Baz Luhrmann, Sunscreen. This song came out when I was in originally published in 97.
97.
So, but it was a 7-minute and 9-second song.
So good.
And it was so apropos at the time, because I was graduating in 1999. Mm-hmm. So everything that it talked about, it was like to the class of 99 or whatever it said. Remember to always wear sunscreen, and just like enjoy this. And you listen back to that, and it's such a
holds up
true song.
Yeah,
it holds up just like Vitamin C, the graduation song.
I was going to say that came out around the same time, right? 99.
I loved Vitamin C. Vitamin C song. Let's see.
Friends
1999.
forever. Yeah, 99.
Do you know how good that song is?
It is good.
As we go on.
Wait, what was your graduation
we
song?
We remember all the times we spent together as we go on to surrender.
What was your graduation song?
I don't know. I didn't pay attention in
Really?
school, Steven.
Oh.
I had nothing to do with school. I wasn't.
We had
I
such a
wasn't
big
in the
debate between like Green Day, Eve 6, Here's to the Night, and then for some reason we picked Journey, Don't Stop Believing, which is just random because we graduated in 2006.
That's
and
dumb graduation bullshit
I
that
thought it
people
was-
do. Like,
yeah.
like oh,
at least
God,
pick a song that we grew up with.
It was probably the graduation song because that song was so damn good when it came
Well,
out.
especially because it came out that year, yeah.
Vitamin C. Her hair was orange. We didn't have any. I don't remember any. I was not involved in school whatsoever. If I could do it again, I would love to be involved in stuff because I would have like met people and not just gone home and sat on AOL all day. But maybe that was just the training I needed for
Exactly.
being a success 20 years later.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm coming up on 25-year anniversary at some point. Hopefully,
25 years of what?
since I graduated.
Oh, jeez.
99, Steven. It's 2024. It's 25 years.
Did you go to any? Did you have?
Fuck yeah! I go to graduation. I go to those places. I walked in. I remember the first one. I went in with like a tasseled jacket. This is before Frono's photo, so it would have been 2005, 2004 actually. And I remember the fifth, and the people were still getting drunk because those losers that always got drunk. You know, those high school kids that were popular then. I walked in. I was just like, whatever. But then, I walk in. Oh God, do I have to tell this story again? I get it real fast, Steven. Real fast. Went to the 20th reunion. It was right before the pandemic, and I just show up as myself. Frono's. I'm that guy now because like the girl comes up to me and goes, "You remember the story?"
I don't know.
So these two kids that were in my homeroom were drunk, of course, at their 20th reunion. They
Hell
come up,
yes.
they're like, "Is it true?" I'm like, "Excuse me, I'm having a conversation with this person right now. Will you shut the fuck up? And why are you acting like it's 1999 and you're a kid again? Whatever." So then this girl comes up, the girl I had the biggest crush on forever, like
Ooh.
forever, ever.
What's up?
Forever, ever. She goes, "Is it true?" And I'm like, "Is what true?" She goes, "That you make porn." And I was like, I look her dead straight in the eye. I look her right in the eyes and I go, "Yes." And walked away.
I'm Bobby Long.
And that was it.
Oh,
and just it.
that's
like,
great.
I'm like, one.
So someone
why are
started
you-
a rumor?
Yeah, I'm like, why are you guys talking? Awesome. You're talking about me. That's a good thing because you're trying to figure out how's this guy so successful. It's porn. It's porn. That's what it is. It's porn. Yeah, and then these other girls are like, "Did you mean you do this?" I'm like, yeah, I do all of that.
Are you the pitcher or the catcher?
Like, what does it even matter? Like, what is it? That's the funny thing is I just was like going with it. Who cares? Like, cool. That's the rumor you guys are talking about. That's awesome.
See, if you showed up what you're wearing right now, then I'd be like, okay, I believe that. Because you're wearing a purple, tight, sleeveless I
Why
Shoot Raw
is your brain
shirt.
going to like gay porn, Steven? They didn't say gay porn. They just said porn. Why? What do you think, Zach and Miri?
I think they probably thought that too. What?
Nothing about me screams gay, but my ass.
Exactly.
Shit. Whatever, it's true. If someone comes up to you and says something like that, you just take it. You're just like, yeah.
You just
not
take
like
it.
that,
Yep.
Steven. You're just like, yeah. Just own it. Just play into it. That's the best way to do things. Don't get offended.
I mean, I would probably personally be like, no, that's not true, but that's just me.
I was like, yes.
I went to my 10-year reunion, but we skipped the 15, and who knows if we're going to do a 20. That's
How
just
many
in 2
people did you
years.
make out with at that?
I had my girlfriend who is now my wife with me, so nobody.
Oh, how many did she make out with?
Nobody.
Excuse me, hey, would you like to kiss this girl? I kissed a girl and I liked it.
Just reunions just aren't even really needed anymore with Facebook and just online in general. I think 20 makes sense, but 10, do you really need to be there 10 years later?
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I like seeing all those people that were popular that now have shitty jobs, and for me, it's like a redemption thing. Like look at me, I'm
Look at me
successful.
now.
Look at me, I'm successful.
No, look at
all
me.
my many properties. I travel the world, and what do? Oh, that's right. You're in corporate bullshit. How's that working for you? How's that working for you? All right. Episode 107. Thank you very much for listening. Jared Polin, frontlessphoto.com. See ya.
Bye.